Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We are live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Just go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and you can get into the precious metals game for as little as $50 a month. Today's episode is a very important episode. As you know, we live in a very balanced ecosystem, and there seems to be this movement to basically throw it off center. And every person, every creature, every part of this ecosystem is perfectly balanced. And we have to learn how to live within that harmony of that ecosystem. And we're going to get into basically the war on bees that is happening right now. So I'm very excited to have our next guest on. He is a former tech guy who dealt in mathematics and algorithms. He's been working really hard to save the bees. His organization, his website is called 4RBees. Very excited to have him on. Please welcome for the first time, hopefully many times, Brent Knudsen. How are you? Knudsen, did I pronounce that correct? That's the only thing I didn't ask you before the show.
Well, you know what? It's close, but it would be Knudsen. There you go.
Please welcome Brent.
Yeah.
Brent Knudsen. How are you, sir? Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. Sorry about messing up your name. It is par for the course. I flunked first grade.
Yeah, that's no worries, man. If that's the that names, and especially that name is a tricky one. Right?
Well, it's an honor to have you on, my friend. We appreciate you spending some time with our show. For those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Okay, yeah. So the company is known as 4RBees. I've got it right here in the shirt, 4RBees.com, and you can go and see that we're dynamically changing the whole ecosystems with bees and how we're dealing with frequency-based here to balance back at and build their immune system. So that's what we're doing now. My background really came out of FinTech, that I was dealing with putting all the algorithms together in the 90s for debit and credit. But I was always fascinated by sacred geometry because, and this is the cool part, this will connect in, is back in those days when I was doing all the math and algorithms of how the money was to be moved around, but I was also noticing it was very similar to everything I was seeing out there with sacred geometry. And I'll give you an example. So it doesn't matter whether we're looking at corporations or we're looking at nature or religion, all these same symbols were there. So we're talking about the flower of life, star tetrahedron, and whether you see it in the Walmart, if you look at Walmart, it's in their symbol, 6 points. If you look in snowflakes, if you look in the medical insignias and everything, that's great. We're seeing it up here. It's also in law enforcement. That's why law enforcements have stars on them, right? Some have 6, some have 5. We can get into talking about that. But that was it then led to knowing that what we're really looking at is quantum physics. We're getting down to the atom structure itself. If you'll see in some of the diagrams, you'll see in there the 6 point is within the actual atom. And of course, atoms construct everything that exists. Doesn't matter whether it's a tree, rock, us. It only decides what the frequency difference is. So I was fascinated by that as a hobby and as an interest, even back when I was starting a company that was called Tangerine, that went on to be a very successful public company, and then went into banking here in Canada under Tangerine. So it was very successful in those fields of banking. So what happened was in 2008, with all that meltdown that came in the financial and all that was going on. Yeah. Well, what happened then is that was when I was getting the best financial situation I ever had, because we were getting bought out by Goldman Sachs and to another level. and it freed me up financially and time wise that I could go full time into my passion, which was drilling down why all these symbols were there and what really could be done. So I started going back into Samaria and all the symbolism that's there, and then went through Egypt, then went into the Roman Catholic Church. It's all there. It's all in there. And what I discovered is at a cellular level, mitosis, each one of us, doesn't matter whether it's plant, insect, reptile, human, we all started as a one-celled item that went into the flower of life. That was the frequency blueprint that we all share. Those are a fact. That's no conspiracy. That's the way it is. So I, as being where my background, I wanted to figure out, how do I capture that blueprint and get it, because the cells respond to it. It's where it comes from. So I started to look at it, and I realized I started to step out into the frequency world because I wasn't as familiar with it in frequency healing. And I discovered there was these companies that produced what's called pulse electric magnetic frequency, PEMF mats. So they fabricated frequencies by using electricity or by using copper and so forth. And it dawned on me that a better way to grab those frequencies or glue them would be through magnets, because magnets is something that goes way back into our history. And I believe that's what they used back then, crystals and magnets. And so I started to fool around with magnets as to how I could capture and hold this frequency that I was looking for out of these geometries. And what happened was, through a trial and error, I started to work and found that I needed neodymium magnets because their strength doesn't diminish over 20, 30 years where other magnets do. So I started to working, and it took me trial and error, and I finally captured the frequency I was looking for, and I put it into what was called a PureWave cell. It was basically, it's a small disc that I could start to use and test on food pathogens, which we did in food labs. I started to work with the bees. And it was phenomenal what started happening, the difference and what it was doing. We were kind of looking like these phones. We were canceling bad frequencies or viruses with good frequencies, which was the blueprint. And what happened, it started nullifying, just like you cancel out sound. We took one frequency to another. That was the principle, because I thought that would really work. And once I got into it, I took all of that ancient principles, and look at how many shows talk about all these symbols, what they look like, what they mean. Well, I actually want to know what they use them for. What is it? What do they do with that? And then how can I bring it into where we are, because we are so out of balance.
Yeah.
As everybody knows, with 5G and radiations and radio free. I mean, everybody's getting bombarded, and without going into what that is or what it means, what I decided to first do back here, if you can see it, I have a building back there that I designed as a lab called the Chrysalis building, which blocked out, it didn't allow any frequencies to come in. You couldn't have cell phones and so forth in there. And so I cleaned out the frequencies and then started to work with the blueprint, and the results were spectacular. So then I went, well, okay, if that's now putting into the principle of that it's starting to do it, I sent it out to labs and started to test like chicken and raspberry, stuff you'd buy in the grocery store, lettuce, and you know how it has E. coli in it. You get all these reports. Well, it was removing up to 60%, and it wasn't removing; it was neutralizing, right?
Whoa.
And and so now I had a development. Then we wanted to see how it worked with animals, cats, dogs, and things. Again, what the response and the way they looked at it, and the way that they would respond and heal from it. Because in the human body, almost everything that we deal with is inflammation based. That's why we have pain. That's why we have breakdowns, cancer. All that stuff is based on mostly to do with inflammation. And so by getting to the cells with the proper food or frequency, because food is just a frequency, that's whatever we eat, it just turns into energy. And what happened was it started building the cells up. So I was, this would be around 214. I was reading the reports, even like today, is that they were losing 50% of bee populations, and I hadn't had anything to do with the bees. So I started to go out with organic beekeepers and commercial beekeepers, And I learned that really to save the bees, we had to deal with the beekeepers because they control about 98% of all bees. So what I did was started to work with them and did like cells. I would put the PureWave cell in, up maybe 40 of their hives, and then the other hives they would just keep doing normally what they were doing. And what happened was phenomenal, the difference. And even this year, we're having incredible bee population loss out there. Like we're getting fed in from people that don't are not treating with the PureWave cells and what we're doing. But our beekeepers are having a lot. They're losing a lot less. Now there's other factors, food sources and different viruses and diseases. But what we're doing is going in and building those immune systems up. And then we do seeding for population for food sources. And now we're replacing queens and so forth for them. So we do all that at no charge to the beekeepers so that it's not a cost, because we need to financially help them to build back up what they're doing. That was one of their biggest problems. And when they were sending their bees out for pollinating, it's really hard on them because they're traveling and bringing back. So we're now healing those bees. So what got me going into that is, and Sam, you'll really relate to this. I could have gone in the human aspect because I had so many patients and humans coming to the facility to check out and be treated. But I realized that the more I went down the medical field and started to show that you needed a lot less pharmaceutical or whatever, I knew that the more heat I would get, because I come from that world, and I knew that I would get major heat. The more success I would have, the more I'd have coming at me, right? So what I elected to do is, why don't I go into the insect or animal world and do all my testing there and food and so forth like that. And so that's what I did. And it was hilarious when I first started going with the beekeepers, and I started to bring the technology, and they would come out and be all around me, and they'd be with it, and they'd be going crazy, attracted to the frequency as animals are, plants as well. And so the beekeepers were a little leery, in the beginning, but I got through that. And because there was no charge, I just gave that to them. And then they started to do their testing, and we went through all the research, 3-year plan on researching the difference with and without. And we started to dynamically make the change. And so that's where, and then they said, well, we've got this amazing honey that's coming out of those hives that we had the cells in. So we said, well, I'm going to, at Fairview, buy all that honey from you. I only want that honey that comes out of there. And I want to super frequency charge it with, I have an instrument that goes to high level frequencies on the same principle. And so we treat all the honey with that. So it's like no other honey in the world. And we call that PureWave energized honey.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing, dude. And sir, I didn't mean to call you dude.
Well, you could call me dude. I'm rich, no problem.
I love it. I want to try your honey. I'm very excited about it. So this reminds me of a conversation I had with one of my favorite people, Charlie Robinson. We were at the Third Eye Carnival in the middle of a tornado doing stand up as the Lord chucks cows all over the place, and he was telling me about it because I see behind you Tesla, who we all love and revere. He was telling me about this Tesla machine because I have really bad hips. It affects my sleep. It affects everything. It's probably from when I used to run and gun in my life, probably not taking care of my body the way I should have. And he was telling me about this Tesla machine that some of the people in his circle have, that they've put it on like different parts of people's bodies that were kind of out of line and hurting. And he said it healed them. So, there's this whole theory that this is why you see all the bells are cracked everywhere, because vibrations affect the body. It's a big, there's also people get into, like, when you take a look at like the Spanish flu and all that stuff, we see an introduction of new technology, like the, all the high wire electricity lines suddenly were getting laid down, and people's bodies weren't used to that. And so everything you're saying really resonates with me. We've talked about this extensively on the show, and it's my personal opinion, of course, that we live in a realm that's way more interesting than anybody really wants to admit. and that that magic and energy manipulation is a big part of it. Some people maybe want to get into manifestation and stuff like that. I believe in all that stuff, that you can manipulate energy, you can manipulate vibrations, you can do all that stuff for both good and bad, obviously. There's a lot of sorcery going on in the world. Why is that going on? Why are these people that seem to be in this kind of depopulation agenda seem to be wanting to spray everything and block out the sun and all this crazy stuff that you're like, why are you doing all this? And it kind of gets in again to depopulation. So everything you're saying really resonates with me, and I find that very, very, very interesting. And if you go to the number 4R, the letter R, bees.com, you can check out all the PureWave honey that's there. We'd love to work with you in some capacities, in some ways, to see if there's a way we could work together to promote yourself.
Well, Sam, what I've done for you, because I wasn't sure, if anybody listening or with your audience, if they just put the code SAM, right? When they go there, if they put code SAM, get 20% off anything that's there for you.
We'll make you a banner. We'll put you on the page, and we'll give you shout outs on every show.
It's there for you, and I wanted that anyway because just I'm honored when I have people that bring on to send this message, and just like you said, you know so much about it, and there's so much going around with different people coming on and talking. Whether you see it on Joe all the time, people talking about ancient stuff, whether it's Billy Carson or all, tons of different people getting into our ancient history and what that means and what's different about it. And basically what I understood as someone who works, because everything is geometry and math, everything is to do with that. But so here's some really cool stuff that you'll love. So why does law enforcement have the star on it, right? Two types, 5-pointed star and 6-pointed star. Well, there's a really good explanation for it. So the 5 senses, smell, touch, feel, our 5 senses that work within the realm of us is 5 points, right? So it's our basic laws of gravity. It's the laws that we work under in the 3rd dimension. So this is not getting into manifestation or the 6th sense. So literally that star on their chest is enforcing man-made law. They're enforcing man-made law, right? That's the 5 points. The 6th, and you'll see it on them, the upper echelons, has to do with the 6th sense, outside of man-made law. And that's what I was interested in, was let's go into why the religions all had their thing, why they dealt with things like 666, was, the devil, all these things that religions dealt with and all this. And what I wanted to do was find a common denominator. What does this stuff mean and how could it be used? Because I decided a long time ago, I didn't want to go through this life, and all I did was gain money, taste food, and do stuff, but I don't even know how it worked. I just checked out. I went through it. I didn't even know what I was in. It was just some kind of a party I went through, right? So then I got down to it and I found that blueprint. I found that all of us, and insects and everybody that's alive in a cell we come from the same thing. We all start out the same way and cells respond. Now, then it goes into DNA and structure and whatever that forms, right? And then that gets into your manifestation, because if out there in the universe, or what I call the universal intelligence, can do anything and create everything, all it cares about is what we decide to create, or what frequency or what vibration goes out, because we're a transmitter and receiver. That's why you meet people who are hugely successful, because they're so focused and they're like a laser, right? And so they manifest like crazy. Yeah. And then you got the general population where it's just like a flood. It's like every day is a new catastrophe day or whatever. Well, they're not going to manifest much because they're so distracted. And, that's why we live in the distraction. But what's really happened is the technologies that's come in the last 50 years, and particularly the last 20, is what it's doing is it does miracle stuff. Our cell phones and communications, it's miracle stuff. And I know I was part of that, but it's not good for us physically. It just physically doesn't work. It works amazingly for what it's supposed to do. So that's kind of what we ran into. And so that's why imbalances are coming. And really it's just those frequencies are not jiving with our cells. They're just not. And they're causing. Do you know that at the turn of the century, cancer was 8%? That's what it was, 8%, turn of the century. It's now 70%. So what happened? What changed? Between electricity and radio waves, all this stuff. So something happened. It definitely something happened. So I decided I didn't want to get into, the exact reasons why that was causing us all kinds of problems, because there's lots of people to cover that. What I was more interested in is how can I fix something, or how can I make a difference in it? Right. That's because we can all talk about what the problems are, or wow, that's going on, or geez, they're killing us over here, or whatever. Right. But I'm thinking, okay, well, why don't I drill down and get something at least on a basis that can support, in a mild way, but can support our cells, can cause some pain relief, can cause, what food that you're getting from the grocery store, you can clean it up without any problem, like 5-minute exposure. Get the bees up and running, this kind of thing. And I found that was through geometry, and that was through going back and looking at it and then finding out how to glue it together. How can I hold it? How can I take that frequency and not let it dissipate and capture it? And these cells that I have, the PureWave cells, it's 48,000 gauss that's in there. Each petal has 4,000 gauss. And what it does is these magnets want to come together like you wouldn't believe. So they're like this. They're doing this, and I won't let them come together. I hold them in place, so then the frequency is consistent. And then that's what the cells respond to. So that frequency, well, in this case, within a foot, 2 feet of it. I have other stuff that it's further. But what it does, we've actually on our site in some of our videos or show you that we show the honey before we treat it, right? On what's called electrography. And you'll see it's vibrating at a certain level. And then after we treat it, it explodes, which means it just goes into our cells like crazy, right? It's just that simple. So that's, I didn't want to get complicated on what I went through we could do that another time, anytime you want. It's how these geometric forms work, but it falls right into quantum physics. So our ancients, they were involved in quantum physics, but in a different way. They were using it, which I believe through magnets and so forth, because that was readily available. They could use that. Whereas today we use electricity and other forms. But the thing about magnets is they're from the Earth. They're an Earth base, so they're a DC currency as opposed to AC. And our cells seem to really like that. That seems to be real natural, because that's what we get when you go into a forest. When you go into a forest, somebody says, "Oh, it feels so good, Brent. It feels so." Yeah, it feels so good because it's at a 7 hertz. It's between what's called a 1 and a 30 hertz natural Earth frequency that comes from the Schumann, which is lightning strikes, and the Earth's electromagnetic frequency. They mix together, and that's the natural frequency that animals, cells, plants, everything respond to, right? So a lot of people don't understand that lightning strikes the Earth 25 million times a day, right? Because we don't see that, but it's every day. And so I want to capture what the cells respond to, and that's through Earth magnets and putting it. So that was kind of, I'll stop there for a second just to...
I love that. That was fire. Look, I got a question for you. Have you tried everything under the sun for peace of mind? It sounds like it's time for you to try Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. Let me tell you about Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies.
Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether you're dealing with stress, discomfort, or you just need a little relaxation. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD. And all their products are third-party, lab-tested, and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity.
All right, so right now, Tinfoil Hat listeners can save 30% off their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. Guys, are you going bald? Girls, are you going bald? Is everyone going bald? Well, it's an epidemic right now, and guess what? You don't have to lose that battle because our good friends at Hims have the perfect plan to help you get full, luxurious hair back. Let me tell you about Hims. Hair loss doesn't have to be your thing. There's technology out there, and there's no better place to go for that technology than our good friends at Hims.
Hims provides you with convenient access to a range of hair loss treatments that work all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. Choose from personalized chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatments to find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online, so you don't have to deal with uncomfortable doctor visits. You just answer a few questions, and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. And if prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to you for free. No insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatment to ongoing care. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, and they can help you get your confidence back too with visibly thicker and fuller hair.
So here's what we need you to do, man. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/tinfoil hat. That's HIMS.com/tinfoil hat for your personal hair loss treatment options. hims.com/tinfoil hat.
Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride prescription products. Require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
You brought up something very a little while ago, and I because you were on a nice roll, I didn't want to jump in.
Yeah.
You brought up the man's law, and this is something again we talked on the last episode. Is like I feel like man's law has a little bit of this thing that I've been talking about, which is this false reality that is kind of projected onto God's reality and nature's reality and this realm reality. So when you say the 5 points are man's laws, what exactly are we saying there?
Okay. Yeah. Good. Great. So you know how like when we're dealing in the third dimension, we deal with what we can see, feel, touch, and smell. That kind of stuff, Sam.
Yes.
Right? Like it's the base. It's and you know how everybody says if I can't see it or it's not real. You have the people that unless they can, put a point on it, they won't accept anything conceptual or any right.
Yes.
Which is what we'll get into next. That is what I'm not talking about. Like. Government man-made law. I'm talking about nature's man-made law, with just that simple third dimension, right? Which is what you can see, feel, hear, smell, and touch, right? So that basically is where the 5-pointed star came from when you see that. And alchemy comes out of that. That's why you always see a 5-star that's basically in things like what you were talking, occult things, where you'll see them placed into there, or they might be in something that's in anything that's alchemy, where they're talking about fooling around with, sorcery, stuff like that.
Okay,
right?
okay.
You'll see a 5-pointed star. It's not 6. The 6-pointed star, you see that right on the Jewish flag, right? That's right on the Jewish flag. That's a whole different ballgame. Now, the Hebrews, that's not their symbol. Their symbol was done from the candles. They only put that symbol on their flags in the 1700s, is where that came from. But it's right. That's not coming from way back because they understood the powers to be understood through there is that they wanted to capture the quantum physics itself. So when you look at a star tetrahedron, you're looking at a 2-dimensional object. If you take a point and go from each point, go up and then go under, you literally are in an atom. You're literally in quantum physics. That's what you're looking at if you go 3-dimensional, right? And you can do it easy. All you got to do is lay that star out, draw a point up 3 feet and 3 down, like below it and above it, and do this. And there's your atom, right? Right there. It's right in there, right? And so they know this kind of stuff is what's powerful because now you're getting into manifestation. Now you're getting into things like the sixth sense, right? Outside of what we can smell, taste, hear, and touch, right? So law enforcement with the 5 points, it's not that they know this, but the 5 points represents literally man-made law. That's what it is. That's what's on there. When you get into the other stuff, then it's outside of that. It's in another zone. So that's what I mean by man.
Okay. And I could be way wrong on this, and then I don't want to get too far off of what you want to talk about here. But
no worries.
So I have this theory that most of our next gen technology, our next gen weaponry, is hardwired mysticism. Okay, like over the thousands and thousands of years that they have been trying to work on this stuff, they finally got to the point where they can produce it 100% of the time. You brought up man-made, which is like, can I see it? Can I taste it? Can I touch it? Can I do all that? That to me is, if someone goes, hey, I'm psychic, okay, and they go, well, read my mind, or whatever your psychic ability is.
That's right.
And your inability to do that to them says you're not a psychic. Well, that may not be the process in which you use your psychic abilities. Your psychic abilities be like, there's energy coming in, I have this reaction to this energy, and this energy tells me that this is happening, or it plays out. Like for me, I always think that I'm really good at hearing some data and having it play out to tell me how this thing's going to go. That's my belief. That's why I think the show's done so well, because we've been able to predict where things are going to go, not at 100%, but a pretty good clip. So yeah. Am I really far off in saying that in a weird way that is along the lines of what you're talking about in terms of that the 6 point versus the 5 point? Everyone accepts the 5 point. Some people may not accept the 6 point because the 6 point brings in mysticism, which may not be able to be reproduced every time, all the time, at the moment it's being asked to be reproduced, compared to, I can pick up this phone, I can make a call. That is man's law.
Exactly. No, you've nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it, because that's exactly right. One is it's a use and it's undeniable. But when you start getting into what you started to talk about, sixth sense and getting outside of the third dimension, I'll step back for a second and answer it this way. When this building behind me that you can kind of see over in the corner here, what that was designed to do, the biggest issue that we have a lot of times is the distraction that we're bombarded with. Like it's undeniably brutal, right? So when I was able to start to work with manifestation and go in that building and eliminate all distraction, like literally all distraction, I would be inside there in a center. When I was trying to discover, and inventors talk about this all the time, they'll have a little sleep or they go with their non-distracted. Now I want to go into the ether. I want to go into outside of that five star. I want to go into the 6 star and further out. And what's there is everything that you could ever imagine that exists or ever did, right? So if you go in there with an intention? So this is the saying. If you want to go in there with an intention, very laser-like, then put all your attention to that intention. You go in there, and I was getting to the point that I could go in, not every time. It wasn't every time. But when I really focused, I'd get a shiver from the bottom of my spine up the back, kind of like this, kind of like that, yeah. Right? I knew as soon as that happened, the phone call went out. And I'd get through a phone call, a person showing up, or a letter or a circumstance, exactly what I was looking for. Within days. It would happen within days. And we all have this ability. We all have it. The reason that very few people can do it is the distractions that we're in, whether that and the illusion of that what we're in is to whatever we're pursuing or think we're pursuing, or just tied up on our, on the technologies. That takes you so far away from what we're talking about here as to what you can actually do or find out or discover. But you have to want to. It has to be a want. You have to want to. But I can sit here and without any reservation tell you that everybody has it, and I just happened to put it in an environment where I took that distraction away. And then I was looking for the very things that we're talking about. And when you get into that zone, when you get into that place, that's now you are in, that's what people call a spiritual or a miraculous discovery, or inventors call it came to them. If you listen to inventors, they'll all say the same thing. Is where that comes from and how that comes is from there. It all comes from there. But it doesn't discriminate. It's just like anything. If you go in with huge anxiety, that's what you're going to get. If you go in with absolute calm and focus, that's what you're going to get. You know, it's like people will relate when you have a 2-year-old child and they're stomping their feet. You can't get through to them. There's no use. There's no use speaking to them. But the moment they calm down, they got to calm down. Then you can. Well, we're the same. That universal force is dying to get into us, but we're in chaos, so it can't get to us. It just can't communicate, right? And it is a communication. It's a different kind of communication, but man, it comes through thought and perception, right? So this is where that quantum element comes into it, because you now can start playing. Remember, everything that exists is made of the same thing. We're all made of the same stuff. And I'm talking rocks, you, me. The only difference is the frequency and what we vibrate at and how it's created. And that's all done by that intelligence, right? So if you start tapping into that, you just got to know what to ask. If you're going in and asking, that's where, but it doesn't just relate to that you ask. You've got to go in with this intense feeling and emotion of focus, and then it goes, oh, okay, I get it, okay, and then it communicates, right? So that's the best way I can put it, and so that answers what you're saying is so true. I just sort of put it in my own spin.
No, I love it, and I can't express to people out there how much, like, it's like I'm in recovery, and one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned in recovery was, I am where I am based on decisions I've made and the actions I've taken. And I create my reality. And everything to me is energy, and it's like I'm an old dog in comedy. I've been doing comedy 30 years. I've seen people blow up and everyone goes, why did that happen? I've seen people who are the funniest work their asses off. Doesn't happen that way. So I no longer get lost in the results. Okay. I just don't. It's everything is energy. I call it the Elvis factor. Johnny calls it the Hitler factor. It's just this thing.
Indeed.
It's just this thing of energy. And I think you can create that Elvis energy. It's just, can you tap into it? Can you believe in yourself enough? Can you manifest enough to make it happen? And, so many times in our modern day society, we see people who at some point the mask comes off and we realize they're not the people we thought they were. It's the old Thomas Sowell quote where, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's like in a society that has unrealistic expectations of people and only demand perfection, the only people that can satisfy them are liars, right? So why do I say that? It's because I have seen so many people that at some point weren't the nicest people in the world, and I would tell you hurt people, right? And they made to the pinnacle. And why? It's because even someone who you say isn't the nicest person in the world, they can use manifestation as well. And like you said, where you said laser focus. Well, some psychopaths have laser focus. It's like my old Kung Fu Sifu said to me, bad people can learn karate too. Bad people can learn martial arts too. So this is the whole thing. So if you're at home, and I get hit up all the time when I'm on the road. And one of the nice things everyone says to me, and I'm not saying this so you say it to me, I'm saying this because I mean it. One of the nice things is like someone goes, I listened to your show and I took control of my life and I changed my life. You can change your life.
Not only that, how many people have we had that were a fan of the show and came on and were on the show?
Yeah.
That's manifesting it. That blows my mind when people are like, dude, you helped me start the show and now I'm here. Yeah. And they're pretty mind blown. You can tell we're like, oh, this is kind of like a fan. But we're fucking happy because that's manifesting it. It's making it happen.
It is. It is. What do you want? It is out there. It's this thing called also like trans surfing, and the joke is it's not about cross dressers in Hawaii, but it's about this notion that it's the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? It's like there is a million versions of you. All of them are possible. Some are going to take everything in the whole world come together, but there are other versions of you that you'll be as happy with that are way easier to attain, but they are out there. You are this version of you because you want that version. You have actually manifested this version of you that you are not happy with. This is what you've manifested. And I can catch myself doing that once in a while. I get very lost in like a lot of the chaos around me. And the darkness starts to really like start to consume me. And I have to understand that that's not the reality that is permanent. That's the reality that my thought process is pulling into me. So everything you're saying is so on point to just what I've learned in 891 episodes of Tinfoil Hat.
How do you think that relates to prayer, Sam? How do you think prayer works on that same level?
I think prayer is manifestation.
Yeah.
I mean, you are talking to Creator, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do they say to you? Pray for your enemies, pray for those you have problems with. And how many times does that slowly start to heal the process, to get on your knees and pray for someone that is actually driving you crazy? That is positive energy. I've always said money is not the problem. The use of money and the hoarding of money is the problem. When you spend money on yourself, I mean, listen, this organization helps beekeepers at zero cost to the beekeepers. That is abundance. That is, we live in a world where we're just programmed to scarcity, and it is abundance. This is why I love this episode, because it's an old school episode where we're like, we're getting into energy here. And it's like to help all these beekeepers at zero cost, then to buy the honey from them that you basically help them create is abundance. It is the giving away of money and not expecting anything in return. And that's why you're thriving, in my humble opinion. So if you're listening right now and you are not happy where you are and you're not happy with what's going on, just know the only one that can save you is you. You have to be the first responder to your problems. There's no one else that can fix the fuck in your life. Sorry to use that language, but it's just the truth.
True.
Yeah, even as a skinny guy, you know what I love? I love transformation videos.
Yeah.
Like when you see a fat chick going to a skinny chick or a fat dude, and as a skinny guy, I'm still like, I love that.
When you see a big fat pig.
I love it, dude. When you see somebody like, I started here and look at me now, couldn't be happier.
Yeah. Well, have you seen too now? Because people love it so much, XG, that they're now AI, like a big genre on Instagram is AI transformations. They're like faking them just to.
Stop. We started with the downs, now we're doing fitness.
Well, the truth is that leads to nowhere.
No, oh yeah, just views. I mean,
that doesn't mean. Yeah, I mean, you could do whatever you want with that, but that presentation of negative energy like that.
Yeah.
But what happens if I'm a giant guy I'm way bigger than I am right now, but I'm really big, and I see this AI video of this guy, and that inspires me to change my life? Then it becomes a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Well, what's interesting, Sam, when you were started off by talking about, you were talking about going through some kind of out of rehab or something. I think you started off with talking about some of the most connected and spiritual people that I've ever met in my life have really been highly addictive people, whether it was alcohol or drugs or whatever, right? But what I realized was these were people who were highly connected and sensitive to it. What was getting them down and disillusioned by it was the confusion around what all's going on and what's happening, and then anxieties and nothing's lining up. And that can be incredibly depressing, right? So what I found is that really, whether it be friends, and I've had families and different associates, is what I realized was the clear way out of that was two things, which was purpose and belief. The problem is the belief, because most people, and I've met. I can't speak for anybody else, but in my life, I've met very rare people who are true believers. In other words, they really believe. They say they do, but as soon as they're tested or a gun's to their head, it all goes out the window, man, because they don't believe. Once you start believing in these things we're talking about and what you're capable of and what you're connected to, my God, how can anything be greater than that? Because now you're empowered. You're not disempowered. You're not out of bullets. Now you got it, right? So the key here, the key is what the purpose, what's your purpose? What do you really want versus what you're told you want or what you've been sucked into or whatever it is, right? And that could mean you could be making a lot of money. You could have a lot of money. You're still sucked into it. So that has no way out. Once you're looking for something and then you're passionate about it and then you start to believe, the power of that is you're liberated. You're outside of this matrix. You're not locked into it anymore. So I just wanted to put that out there because I was never so liberated as when I decided my purpose was to find out how certain things work. In other words, how does this stuff, how do all these symbols and everything, and what do they connect with? Because they're for sure there, right? And so that gave me that strong purpose, which I never had before. And I made lots of money and I was very comfortable. I wasn't satisfied with that. It wasn't until the purpose, because I could have seen in my older years after, lots of money and stuff, is I would have just started falling into like partying or socializing or whatever. And that had no interest to me, right? And as I'll state to you guys, because you guys are a lot younger, I'm hitting 70 now, right? So it's basically like, I'm on the TikTok, right? So it's I'm just I'm just thrilled. I couldn't give a shit about any of it. And that anxiety, what everybody was telling me when we were going through all the COVID and all that, everybody's anxiety and this and that, or what Trump's doing, or what isn't, or who isn't, or this. And I said, why don't you, if you want, the only way to get rid of that anxiety is why don't you focus on what you're doing? What do you do? What's your thing? What are you creating and doing? If you get creating, there can't be any anxiety. You can't have anxiety while you're creating because you can't focus on two things, and all that won't matter anymore. So it's really about getting down to, with us, is digging something we believe in and a purpose, right? And that's where shows like yours help by just letting people know that it's okay that if you're addicted to shit, whether that's food, drugs, things, whatever, that's normal. That's usually highly intuitive people. But the way out of it is, hey, what do you want to do? What do we want to get done? That's why I said I don't want to just read about it. What can we make this stuff do, and how can we change shit, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Hey, guys, real quick, I'm going to tell you about our good friends at GoldenNuggetCasino.com. That's right, GoldenNuggetCasino.com. Lights, camera, action. The hottest new act in Vegas is coming straight to your pocket. For a limited time, Golden Nugget Casino presents the Golden Tour, okay? Turn your downtime into showtime with performances from your favorite slots, special appearances from daily rewards, and electrifying jackpots. Sign up now with the code Tinfoil Hat. Deposit $5 or more and enjoy 100% deposit match up to $1,000 in casino bonus funds. Catch the Golden Tour on the Golden Nugget online casino app and claim your rewards now.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Deposit matched on first deposit after opt-in up to $1,000 in non-withdrawable casino bonus funds that require 20-time playthrough with 168 hours on select slots. Terms at goldennuggetcasino.com/promos. Ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on June 8th, 2025.
That gets into all these pills: white pills, blue pills, red pills, black pills. And, there's a real belief. Jason Bassler, Free Thought Project, he brought up that he thought the black pill was an intelligence operation along the lines of what they did with the JFK assassination with calling everybody conspiracy theorists. Now they're calling everybody, they want us all to call the people, call the people who are giving us uncomfortable data. We want to call them black pills. But I think there's a step beyond the black pill, which is the white pill, which is I control my destiny. Now, we can go into what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in that, where's the white pill in that. And again, I believe all life is sacred. I also believe that there's parts of this realm that are more haunted than others. And why is that happening? Some things I can't figure out with this human brain I have. Some things are much bigger and more in depth and outside of the 5 stars into the 6 star, and that this human computer we have is only meant to go so far. Take a moment, think about infinity, and watch your brain go, okay, we've gone far enough. This thing just go wrap it up and shut it down. That is the extreme of the limit of the brain for some unknown reason. But the 6 stars where we can get into this thing, and there, and then we get into when you talk about the 6 star and the 666 and all that stuff, all the demonization of that. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that there isn't dark energy with that. Again, there could be, but I also know that like when they take symbols and flip them. I mean, we had a guest on before talking about how they changed the names of all these dark spirits so we can never actually know who we're talking about. That starts getting into that stuff. We live in an inverted reality, and they want you to worship the wrong. I mean, like, again, going back to Lil C's and all that, that's a different conversation, but that aligns with me. The end of the Kali Yuga. We're in the densest part right now. This all aligns with me. That this is where we've been. We've been living in a inverted reality, and I think people are beginning to wake up to that and start to understand that there are things at work that are much bigger than man's laws and man's rules and man's all that stuff, if I'm using that correctly. And that's why I think this stuff is very important. And this is why I love these old school episodes. Like this is what built this show up. We're talking about this stuff about, it's okay to get into history and revisionist history. And I love all that stuff. That's probably my favorite subject. But this stuff is like this. Okay, I got all this data. How do I deal with it? What do I do with this data? Okay, here's what you do with it. You look inside and you work on yourself and you be the example for others. That's how you make change. It's like we go into the inversion, which is the 1%. What the mainstream media has been trying to convince us is that the 1% are the powerful elites that control everything. No, the 1% comes from Buddhism, which is 1% of the population can change the other 99% of the population. They don't want you to know that. Right. 1% can change everybody else's stuff. And whatever role this show has had in pop culture, we're just a tiny show compared to a lot of people. But man, it seems like they're talking a lot about the stuff we are, not like that we've been talking about forever. Not saying it's just me. Obviously, Greg Carlwood, No Agenda, all those guys that were even before us have been talking about this stuff for a while. But this small group of people who've been working really hard to talk about this, I feel have made a difference. And they're waking up, and this is all energy, sacred geometry. We haven't done an episode on this in a long time. Like, to me, this is what we're talking about. How are you going to save yourself? This is the stuff. This is what we're talking about. And working with others. And, faith without works is death. That's my opinion. So I love everything you're saying, sir.
Well, what I love about what you're doing with your podcast is because it's all about language. We can talk about this, but with you gentlemen here on this show, you can get through to another group or an audience because you're going to use a different approach and a different language. It's the same information, but you're able to get through where they go, I get what they're talking about. I may not be able to, if I was talking directly or certain to that particular audience, they might not get it as clearly as they'll get it from you because you're coming from a place where they can now believe and accept it, right? Because you can talk all you want, but if people aren't, if they're not believing it or they're not taking it in, right? So I love this because you're in that. I keep saying at a younger age group than myself. There's an age. I mean, there's younger than too, but you guys are young in my world, to compare to me.
I get
it.
Yeah.
So, and I love that because it's all about speaking the language of who you're speaking to, right? So I come in with you and we talk about things, but then you're getting it across and saying, hey, this is this and that. And like you said, Sam, if that's helping a group of individuals that are younger, that are really struggling, with just confused or just, lost or just, feeling left out, right? As this starts to bring in that they really are empowered. If they if they really follow through with you and listen, or different people, that there's a path for them for greatness. I always said, you know what breaks our heart? The only thing that breaks our heart is when we turn our back on ourselves, is when we the power that we have. Why do you think people who turn to the bottle or drugs, why I said they're so powerful is because, get this, they become aware of how amazing it is, and it's so overwhelming to them that they deaden their senses. They go, geez, I need a drink. I mean, they've just seen the sky open up. So they said, the first thing I'm going to do is be scared as shit, and I'm going to take a drink and just settle that rate down, right? Because our magnificence is unbelievable, and it breaks our hearts when we turn our back on it. And that's the honest to God truth, right? So, you know, like you, Sam, I know in your lives you've been open up to, you've spotted it a long time ago, but sometimes when you're younger, it can freak you out. Like, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, like you know, for me, I grew up, you know, being programmed to worship these false idols of rock stars and their life, and it was just like, and everything was parties and drugs and women and constantly all the time, and you know, to the point when I became an adult, I thought that's what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to live in the low vibrational. And, you know, all my problems stem from the low vibrational. I'm open with that. And, you know, I try my hardest to change my life. It's very hard. It's, you know, you can't change the past, and whatever it is whatever it's going to be. And I just keep moving forward, and I just focus on the here and the now. And, you know, we talk about this all the time. Your past isn't your future, and you can change that by changing your vibration, and, you know, everybody you've ever saw that you thought, I want to be that person, I'd like to live a life like that person, they start at day zero. They start at day zero, day one. Day one of changing their life. And if we're going to get into some more of this geometry and stuff here, and the bees and how important they are, but you want to make change, you have to be changing your life. You have to show people how it is possible, because some people are lost and some people are born into crazy stuff. And now I've been starting to notice that a lot of my very successful friends have had very tumultuous. Is that the word I'm looking for?
It is not. No.
Okay.
Tumultuous.
Tumultuous. You know what I'm saying. I flung first grade.
It was really close.
Thank you. Thank you for being understanding.
I thought you had it. I thought you had it.
I'll take the L on that. And
I was on board.
Thank you. Childhoods. They've had very tough childhoods. And now they're like the face of what they do. I mean, publicly, we've seen people just, their childhoods were just chaotic. You know, if they could do it, why can't you do it? Why can't you do it? Well, because you don't think you could do it. And that's really what we're getting into here today. It's just like, there is a energy out there. You have to tap into it, and you have to get it going. And there are powers that be are trying to steer you into this. You know, I really do believe that conformity just drives you into out of options in life, into this kind of like completely controlled environment in which you can't thrive where you want to go. And there's this whole thing that the people with less options in life are happier. Well, it depends on what kind of life you're living at that point. But conformity tends to lead to you being put in a place where you can't go up, you can't go down, you can't go right, and you can't go left.
And we're so lucky, right? This generation of people, because, you know, just 2 generations back, all that mattered was really making enough money to live, surviving. And now we're at to even have the options that we have today, you know?
Yes.
The people, my great-grandparents were like subsistence farmers, you know what I mean? They were just making what they ate, and you know, that was it. That was enough to occupy their days, which I'm sure had its own satisfaction, you know, to see what you grew coming out of the ground. And
it was a simple life.
Children off of that, you know. Yeah. But you know, this is a very
fame has changed that.
Yeah.
The desire for fame has changed that. So, you know, before you came on, we were talking about how, you know, I saw some people talk about how they're not seeing insects like they used to be. When I was very young, and I lived in upstate New York, we had these bushes that were outside our house. And every spring, they would just be eaten by Japanese beetles. They would just be eaten up, and it was just, this is spring. And then once spring, they didn't show up, and they never showed up again. So I live in the valley. There's insects everywhere, and it's starting to get, I haven't seen them at all. So my question to you is, what do you think's going on? Because this is into what they've been talking about, the bees. If the bees fall, everything falls. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that we have noticed is that the bees, when they're in an environment where there's a lot of particular, like 5G frequencies or towers, that are, 4G, whatever, cell towers, high electrical lines, things like that. They will take off. They will it isn't so much, sometimes they die off, but a lot of times they leave. They're gone. They take off, right? And try to find a better environment because it's really interfering with them. It's interfering with how they operate. And, at a health level, it's a real problem. So what they try to do first is leave. If they can't do that, or if they're stuck, then a lot of them will die and do that kind of stuff. So now there's the urban aspect, obviously, when you've got cities and big things. I live more out in the country, and I still notice a lot of insects around. I still get bugs on the windows and stuff like that when I'm driving around. But there's no urban development and so forth around, and bush, and there's this and that. But I think it's to do with a couple of things. It has to do with the urbanizations in some cases, and then it has a lot to do with what's going on. Not just with, cell tower frequency, but, spraying. There's a lot of spraying going on and, killing certain food sources. And there's spraying going on because, they want to deflect the sun or whatever the hell they say they're not doing, but they are doing, that kind of stuff. Right. And, it's definitely affecting the insects for sure. And it's mostly food sources, because if one disappears, that could be a food source for another one and so forth. It's like a domino. Right. So, that's my take, is that there's a lot of that between the chemical aspect and the frequency aspect for different things, and the urbanization, certainly, depending on where you live, as to what used to be there. Can you imagine California? Sam, when you were first, when you were born or just growing up, I mean, it's radically different than it is now, or even from 20 years before that. So there's been, there's a lot going on with the development part. As well. So I believe that's a lot that has to do with it. And that's why for helping the bees in this case, what I have to do is I have to superize their immune system. So I've got to really jack that up so they can ward off stuff, things like that, and provide food sources. We do a lot of that for different wildflower seedings and providing in neighborhoods, even where bees can get certain foods and stuff. So, I mean, food source, just like with us, you gotta have a food source. So, and it's us too. It's the same thing with us. If we can build our immune systems up, we ward a lot of stuff off. And that includes, the bad frequencies. And like, for example, when radiation, which is so insidious about it, if I expose all of you three to radiation, you don't feel anything. You don't notice anything. It's not for about a week later, then you start to go down. Cells are now exploding out. Cancer is starting. Well, it's the same in reverse. When I start bringing in proper Earth frequencies, the PEMF frequencies, the cells start to respond and build up. So things like myself, when I was going through it, little allergies, like I had some allergies to ragweed and other, that's all gone. That was eliminated. Stuff like sight got better. Things like that, because that's immune system. I don't take any drugs, like any pharmaceuticals at all. Like, at my age, it's almost unheard of not to be taking something for pain or something for something. Right? So I use the frequency base is what I do. So, that shows you that you can work with that, because then you're dealing with the cause, not the symptom. But back to your question, I do believe it's those things that are the major culprits for it.
It's interesting to me. Trump is you just can't tell what's going on. I know I'm going to get bombarded with that. He's a deep state. I get it. But did you see this new thing that he just put out where the government wants to pay women $5,000 for every child they have
as like a tax break?
Oh, yeah?
Like just cash?
Sam's just mad that he lost on 10K.
Yeah, he just lost on 10K. But now I gotta go back to work. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for you. So you get $5,000. But that to me is a sign of that he's not down with this depopulation stuff, and it gets into this Jekyll and Hyde thing of Trump. Man, it's like, yeah, you know, his love of war, his desire to you know, and full. We gotta give him his props. He diverted Israel from bombing Iran, which is like a big thing. Now he wants to get rid of that guy that was pushing Peter, whatever his name is. You know, he wants to get rid of him.
Peter Navarro or something. Peter Navarro. Yeah.
No, it's not Navarro. It's Siegel or something like that.
Oh, Siegel. Yeah,
something like that. I pronounce it wrong, but that seems to be the theme of this episode. But you know, he doesn't want to go to war with Iran. Now they're trying to get him out of the cabinet to get in a pro warmonger that will want to go to war with Iran. But this $5,000 a baby thing seems to be a pushback on the depopulation thing.
Yeah, it does make me want to, you know, is this just another backdoor for the welfare state, you know, kind of creeping in, where getting people a step closer to UBI, just getting them used to taking money from the government like we did during COVID. Do you know what I mean?
But we are having a population decline.
Right, but that's kind of how they get like they get people like you on board, because it's your thing that you agree with this. It's population. It's okay when the government
I get
hands
what
out
you're
money
saying there,
directly
because that is their game.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I just fear that.
The thing I'm scared of is who really wants these $5,000. People that need $5,000. You're gonna have a kid thinking $5,000 is gonna
$5,000 ain't gonna do nothing.
That's what I mean. They're gonna get caught with $5,000 thinking that now you have $5,000 in a baby. That's not gonna last you a long time.
Yeah, you're so right. Actually, I could just end up with just
more welfare,
just squeezing out babies, and then they're on the teat for the rest of their lives.
Or you just abort them.
Yeah.
When do you get the money? When it's born?
Well,
after
it's
a month
definitely when it's born.
in?
Yeah, you're not gonna get to abort babies and get paid. I wouldn't think. Yeah,
no.
Conception.
But then it gets into like, are you just gonna give them up for adoption? Yeah. So let's get into
is that a good life?
Research and testing for the frequencies for the PureWave cell design. What went into that?
Okay, yeah, cool. So I sent the PureWave cell to Pathogenia Lab. It's a lab in Quebec, Canada, very close to Montreal, and it's a specific food lab. So all they do is for groceries and everything is they test food for probably 20 different pathogens. You know, E. coli, Streptococcus, Listerine. You know, I mean, it's all in there. When you guys go to the grocery store, you get these different pathogens. And there are not enough pathogens to kill you. They just may give you that, you know, when you had digestion problems, right? That's why when you go into the store, you see Pepto-Bismol, you know, up the wall, right? For people's digestion, right? So I sent it to them, and they tested like chicken and raspberries and different foods. And all they did was they would take it from the store and do a test and see how much E. coli or Listerine. So they did this, and it's on our site. So they'd see how much was in there, and then they'd put the food on the disc on the cell, you know, on a plate for 5 minutes, just for 5 minutes, and then they tested it again, and it was taking out anywhere from 60, 70, and 80%. It was neutralizing those pathogens, because pathogen is just a vibration, just a frequency, right? So then you're not ingesting it. So that was how we did that. To answer your question, that was one of the bigger tests. And then we did a 3-year study with the bees, where I was explaining to you, where we did hives without, after winter, seasoning, packing, non-packing, you know, to make sure that we were seeing what the difference was with having cells in the hives versus the ones that didn't. Also using miticides, like they treat bees with different chemicals, you know, like for mites and stuff. So we tried to say, hey, well, don't do that one. Just put the PureWave cell in. And what we found is that by putting the cell in, it built up to the immune system where the mites were still around, but they weren't able to affect those bees the same because their immune systems were so strong, right? So it didn't eliminate the problem that the bees were having. It's just that they were surviving better because of it, right? So, and I knew that because it's not like you're going to wipe out the varroa mites. You know, they're there and they're around, and they hurt the bees. It's like a little tick kind of thing that gets on the bees and it takes them down, right? It breaks their immune system. So that was the test that we did 3 years, and that was done by Dr. Magda Havas out of Trent University. And that was grueling because I had to go through that really before I could get up and really kick this in. It's not for the faint of heart, this kind of stuff, because you have to go and, it's not driven by money by no means, right? So it's just that you're interested in the results. And so we did those studies on that. And then we did some plant studies, like where we had plants that they wilted, and instead of giving them water right away, the cell was put under them, and then the leaves came up just like they were watered, right? Stuff like that in limited cases. So we did those kind of things just to see how that, what that attracted and did to the plants. And then we did some animal stuff, things where people were putting them under their beds where the dogs and cats were sleeping, and that they had certain problems, and they were, much more mobile, and they were, they were working better, and then put it under their food, of course, because pet food gets affected too, and people are feeding that to their pets. So those are some of the studies that I can pass on.
So earlier, I didn't want to cut you off because you were cooking with gas, but earlier you had said that you could take, let's say, meat from the store and put it under like some kind of vibrational frequency thing, and it would cure it. Is that correct, or am I wrong on that?
No. So what you can do, and so when you go to buy your meat, steak or chicken or whatever, you bring that home from the store, and the PureWave Cell will sit. You can put a plate right on top of it. When people go on the site, they'll see what the cell looks like. You could bring it up or whatever. You can see what it looks like.
Where is it? Where is it on it?
If you go to even shop on the site, you go to shop and you'll see it. Okay. Right there. Sorry, go higher.
This one?
There it is. Right there.
Okay.
That's the cell right there. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Now, if you go to the home site, and it'll even be better. Go to where it says home on the site, and it'll show you and just scroll, keep scroll. Yeah. Stop right there. There it is there. That's actually what it formulates inside. Right there. So you can put a plate on top of that, and that frequency will come out and neutralize if there's something in that. Yeah. And this is a whole video on it. It'll show you. Yeah. It'll show you the reports, everything. So when you watch this stuff, it'll go through all of this, right? And these studies and how you use it and so forth, right? Yeah. So this is something that you can go through, and your audience can go through, and they're not long. They're 4-minute videos, and they'll show hands-on how you can use it and clean your food, right? And so you can bring your groceries home, just clean it, and it's simple. Plus, that cell will last 20 years before it starts to weaken down. So it's marvelous. It just goes for eons using it. You also can put it under your pillow, like for you, Sam. Like you said, you had hip problems and things like that. So we have what's called a fanny pack. You can put it in. You wrap that around your hip or hips or different things, and just put it in there. What it'll do is it'll help with the inflammation.
Really?
It'll help with it'll help you with that kind of pain. We have all kinds of people that do that. And the more you use it and move it, and I'll talk to you more about that, the more pain it'll remove.
So sorry to interrupt you. There's this. He looks like he's a cotton swab on a cell phone. So do you use it on water and then clean things with it? It seems like that's what it's doing.
Oh yeah. Well, no. What we were doing there, great question. What we were doing is we were taking a pathogen off the phone. You know how you've got, it's on your phone. So we went and take it because this is on everybody's phones and stuff. You've got and then we put it in a Petri dish and showed how it started to expand. And then we put the PureWave Cell to it and showed how it reduced that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And it breaks it down, go down a little bit.
Yeah. See, there it is. There it is right there. So see the food?
Go down to the cauliflower.
You go to, see the cells under the one? The food will last longer too, substantially. It won't That's actual been done, like
so-
where it starts to go bad.
So, like, let's say, you know how you cut an avocado, and in 2-3 hours that thing's kind of brown. You don't even want. You got to cut the top layer off. So if I put it under that thing, that avocado will stay a little bit fresher.
On top of it,
yeah.
No. Okay, so not cutting it though. Once you cut it, the air is coming in, right? If you take the avocado itself, like without cutting,
with the skin
like
and
just
all.
the whole one. If you put that on the cell, that will last way longer than one you don't do, right? It won't ripen as fast.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, because remember, avocados, food, everything is at a cellular level. Anything that's alive, plant, animal, insect, is at a cellular level. That's what it's affecting. It's really affecting. It's really working on those things. Now, eventually it'll ripen up and rot too, but it's at a much slower process, much slower.
And does this plate that you have, what is it called again?
It's called the PureWave Cell. The PureWave Cell.
Is this using magnets?
Yeah. It's actually on the site. It'll show you. So the flower of life in a magnetic form is right inside. It's right inside of it, right? So when you watch that video, like what I did is I took these neodymium magnets and cut them into these specific petals, and the petals form the geometry. This is back, Sam. This is what's exciting. It's back to that geometry. So what I did is I captured that geometry at a heavy magnetic, at a magnetic level, and I hold that frequency so that anything that's exposed to it, it's getting that exact frequency all the time, right? So the cells just jump on that, right? Because it's like coming home. It's like coming home for them.
So I have a dog that is getting much older. She has hip problems and stuff like that. Do you think this would help the dog?
How old is he?
She is about 13, 14 years old. That's a pretty.
Does she have a nice little? Does she? Yeah. What kind of dog? What dog? A little dog? Big dog?
It's what would you say, Pollyanna's a mid-sized dog?
Yeah.
She's a little
Medium-sized,
thick.
large.
She's
not like mastiff size. She's like the size of a lab, I would say.
Yeah, she's
Well,
a
maybe small
medium-sized
lab,
dog.
something like that.
She's a mixed breed. She's a Thai Ridgeback and Basenji. That's what we've discovered she is. And
Does she have her own bed that she sleeps in?
nope, we sleep in her bed. We sleep around her. We day one, she jumped right in the bed, and it was like, okay, I guess 3 people sleep in this bed now.
Well, beautiful. Well, the only reason I asked is that if we can get that cell under her, right, and so that she can sleep, like sometimes they have their own bed or whatever, but as long as you can put something where when she's sleeping, it's not that she's right on it because that'll be uncomfortable. Something where there's pillow soft so that she likes it,
under
right?
it, yeah.
Yeah, and then because that'll just go right through it, and have her sleep with it and start using it under her food bowl as well. When you feed her,
Yeah.
make sure that the bowl is on top of that cell,
Okay.
right? On top of that, you start doing that, and then see what happens over a couple of weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. Also, my girlfriend Dana is having teeth problems. You think this could help her with that?
Well, depending on what it is, if it's a gum thing, I've already had success with that. But again, teeth is multiple things, so I wouldn't just say it's a blanket for that because there could be a decay. I mean, I'd have to know more. Just to answer that question, I'd have to know more about what the problem is. Right?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm really into this.
Now, Sam, here's interesting: is we contacted, and there might have been a confusion. I was going to send you down a kit with a cell for you and some honey, and for your other guys too that I'm meeting, is that I was going to do that, but somewhere through our communication, Mark, like we put that out to Mark to send that for you so that you could have those things and try them. So what we'll do is if you can
Afterwards, I'll give you our address and we'll make sure.
Yeah, if you can get Mark, get me where exactly to send. I'll send you a nice little kit. I'll send that down for you. But I'll send you some extra honey for the boys there too, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're in. We're excited.
Does not want us to live long.
So I can tell you now, we will never see that.
You will see it, Johnny. I promise you. Here, I will keep my oath.
I'm still
that
waiting.
You will have
quite
some
a few
nice
things.
ass honey. I don't know if you'll get the plates, but you will have.
Guy made me some bowls.
Hey guys, you guys, do me a favor. You let me know if he's holding back on. Okay, and then I'll slip it through the back door.
If you guys snitch on me, you will be fired. No, only kidding. Only kidding. This has been great, man. I've had a great conversation. Is there anything else we haven't covered that you would like to get across to everybody? Because I know they're going to love this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Our fans really love this stuff, the sacred geometry and how to better themselves. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Just make sure they use the code SAM, because we want to make sure that we give them, some good discount for them because they're watching you. So just make sure that they know that the code is SAM when they're going in order, and they put the code in, and they'll get that discount. Okay, so that's important for them. And the only other thing is to know that follow us, because we're in thousands of hives now, but soon we're going to go beast mode. And we're going to be in millions. We're in Kenya, in Africa. We're in Europe now, and in the future. And I can talk more about this. I want to do a thing where we could do a world thing where we're doing sort of a beast mode thing where we go and we'll kill her. We'll put it 10 million hives, 100,000 beekeepers. We'll do a killer change. People contact us to give us land, start changing ecology. We could really knock it out of the park,
Well, what can we do to help you make that happen besides putting out this episode, let everybody know? Is there anything that we can do to help?
Well, what I'd like to do is maybe down the road when we're organizing this is we could put it, when we'll put it together, put a real thing where we could go out and work along with you, go out to the audience and say, hey, we're going to start to take this to another level where we're going to start to, because we give this out for free to all the and we're supported by the public. It's amazing, what happens. And when we go on live TV, like Coast to Coast and stuff like that, I remember the first time we went on Coast to Coast and we were talking about getting this done and that done. Within 2-3 hours, it went it went crazy. We did like 300 grand worth of product. This was like within 3 hours. It was just like boom. So we could work on things on a campaign. So we're now changing the whole dynamics. We're now starting to spread out and change the whole situation. We can bring more than the bees back. Now you're talking monarch butterflies, whatever, right? We can really do it up, right?
Well, I love you. I love everything you're doing. I think it's so super important. The fight, whatever they are, whoever they are, they have an agenda of depopulation. They're talking about blocking out the sun. They're spraying the pesticides. They're spraying our skies with chemicals. And even though we pass laws to stop it, they seem like Tennessee's passed a law. You can't spray the skies, but yet people see it still all the time. And, the truth is coming out, man. They think they're above. We have apex predators out there who are trying to control humanity and work in the darkness, in my humble opinion. And, I see Tesla behind you and, the sad state he was in at the end. And I get it, man, because when you're trying to do things outside the system, it can get pretty lonely there for a while. And, there wasn't the internet when he was there, and there wasn't a way for him to get it out. And all these people stole his ideas and they perverted them and put them out in a way that didn't help society, didn't help humanity. And I think people like you are doing a great job of taking his technology, what he learned and all of his ideas and putting it into practical use. And I think that is really important. So thank you for that.
Well, I'll leave you with this one thing that for all of you there sitting there, because we were talking about hope, we have so much in this, like what you were just saying, so much is disheartening, but there's the saying is when an idea has come, which we've just talked about, right? And what we can do, us right here, you and me and sitting here and talking about it. When an idea has come, all the armies in the world can't stop. It's as simple as that. It's when the public is ready to accept this as we bring it on, there's nothing can stop it. It will be unstoppable. So that is really, really encouraging, and I know that's what it is. So all we have to do is we stick together and do stuff organized, do the right things, do the work, and all of a sudden there is just an army of people that are there to join us and help. You can't believe the letters and the people and the stories that we get, and the hope is that what we can do. And so that's what I want to leave you with, is that we can change, not everything, but we can change specific stuff. And that's a domino effect, right? So I'd like to stay in tune with you guys. And when we're doing these things is where the parts are or where we're communicating, we'll just tap into it. And down the road, we could do some big, big stuff. Like the beekeeper in Kenya, they're now feeding their whole village because of what we're doing there. So it's a chain reaction. We can change this stuff as opposed to just send them money and send them stuff. They're now self-sufficient, right? So this is exciting.
Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for life. So
we can do it.
Well, I love it. I hope you're okay in Canada. It seems like it's going a little crazy out there, but maybe that's just the news. I don't know. Last time I was in Toronto, it seemed pretty amazing to me. So sometimes I wonder if the internet it also creates a false reality. But I'm very excited. This was a great episode. One of the favorites that we've done in a long, long time. Sorry it took so long to get you on, but we did it, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Let's break down the episode. Wow. Brent Knudsen came on and dropped the hammer of the sacred geometry gods.
Yes.
That was an old school tinfoil hat episode. We haven't done one of those in a long time, and I loved it. A little positive energy for you folks. A little take control of your life, stop bitching episode.
Manifest it.
Manifest that stuff. What'd you guys think?
It was good. Like you said, old school. Old school.
Breaking it down. Johnny, thoughts?
It's also nice to be reminded every now and then that you do have some agency in the direction of your life, because I think there's a certain, especially for people who believe in a deity, there's a certain kind of fatalism, like, hey, this is what is meant to happen to me. But I don't think that's actually reality at all. You can resign yourself to that and then just kind of be tossed about on the waves, you know what I mean, and just let things happen to you. But I think this is more like you're in a boat on the sea, and you have a paddle. Maybe you can't do a lot to get yourself moved all at once, but slowly over time. Yeah, you kind of dig in, you can change your course.
And it's like you get into all these people that have had crazy childhoods, trauma in their childhood, maybe not the perfect parents in their childhood, and somehow they got to the top of their profession.
Yeah, it's funny. When you said that, I was thinking too. There's also this. I remember this is big in comedy. There's this idea you can also kind of grow to fetishize that, or think that's some kind of prerequisite for being funny too, and that can lead you to seek out. I know people who seek out drugs and alcohol because they thought that's a prerequisite for
rock
being in
and
comedy.
roll.
Yeah, rock and roll. Exactly.
I gotta be high to be artistic. No, dude, you were just artistic when you were high. You're gonna be artistic anyways.
Yeah,
and I say that. And guys, the bees are very important. The bees are very important. We have to protect the bees at all points. So this guy's doing the Lord's work.
You're at parks because you have kids. There's no bees. I remember being a kid. Every once in a while, you see the bees, and you see
when we go to the pool that we go to, there's always bees.
Okay, so they're around.
Yeah, I was home and there were bees.
But they've said the bee population has gone down immensely.
Not at my house.
You know what I don't see? I haven't seen in forever. Like I said, I'm not the park. A butterfly.
I see
a butterfly. I don't want to see those.
Are you looking for them though?
No, I'm not. I said I'm not. Now I see the number 77 everywhere.
I was about to say, you're seeing 77s everywhere. Just not butterflies.
Oh, come on. I mean, dude, I've seen 77 everywhere, by the way.
Yeah,
just so you know.
That's what happens.
But I'm just going to say that, it is all frequency and vibration. Everything breaks down to that. That gets in and Christians, and I love you because I am a Christian, but there are some people who really hate
Christian. You sound like Donald Trump there. It's like Christians, I love my Christians.
I'm a Christian. I'm a total Christian. But, when I talk about this, we talk about vibrations. Everything is vibration. Everything is energy. Work your energy. Change your energy. Are you sitting down? Are you writing down your goals in your life? Are you writing down what you want to do? Like I talk to people I work in recovery. I always be like, and what do you want to do when you're sober? Oh, no, not drink. No. That's a mission into sobriety. You want to not drink and do drugs, or be a sex addict, whatever that is. What do you want to do with all this time and energy that you're going to have now? I don't know. I like to do that. No, man. What is it you want to do? You got to be specific about it.
Yeah.
I want to own a house. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to make money. I want to help people. All that stuff is possible. I want to be the president of the United States. That's possible. But man, what's it going to take to make that happen? And are you going to want to do that? And is that going to make you happy?
I've never heard anybody say it like that. You do that shit because you're bored.
Yeah.
A lot of times you drink, you
Dude, my
smoke
porn
because you're fucking
addiction
bored.
Has nothing to do with porn and everything to do with boredom.
Yeah, you're bored. You see one ass on Instagram and then you're like, oh, this can be, like, she can be naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how it goes.
Now you're on dogfart.com. Like, what are we doing with our lives here? And just like, and then, it's low vibrational activity. All these sins that they tell you about that you mocked your grandma and your grandpa, there's a reason why those are like that. They are low vibrational activity that come back and bite you all the fucking time. All the time. All my problems in life stem from my dick. All my problems stem from my dick. That was my Richard
So much
Pryor.
wasted time too. Just
Oh, just like, dude,
I don't want to know the hours. I don't.
Dude,
even
when I was using, I was like setting high scores on Pornhub. They're giving me badges and medals.
that's crazy, dude.
I
They
used
do
to-
that.
Yeah, I was doing jokes about that.
Are
I was a
you?
level 37 dick wizard.
And are you watching the whole video, or you're just like clicking and clicking,
click.
and 5
Nobody-
minutes here, 5
Nobody
minutes
watches the
there?
whole video.
And then it just becomes like I just get in the compilation everything.
yeah, I remember those days.
Compilation porn, and like you really want to get in some dark shit.
Compilations. There you go.
Is like those compilations are so well edited together.
Yes, they are. Dude.
You ask whether that's done by just an amateur or is that part of the psyop to get you in to more and more low vibrational behavior.
Totally could be, or AI.
What do you mean? Like they throw crazier shit in there on purpose?
Yeah, like the bar, all the video suggestion on the side is more depraved than what you're watching. So and now you're already aroused. You're like, what is that? Click it. Now you're watching it aroused.
Taking you to the deep end, conditioning you.
Yeah.
Dude, okay, you know how we sometimes you watch those pedophiles get caught?
What? Okay.
Those pedophiles that get caught on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they say it goes. I'm on Pornhub, and then I click on a video, and now I'm on Telegram, and I'm like...
No, I'm with you, man. And you
And it
get
is on
into
purpose,
it, dude.
yeah.
You get into it. It's really weird because those guys are dangerous, but I also look at them and they're all on the spectrum, dude. They're all on the spectrum. They have zero social skills. They have zero ability to talk to people. Not saying we should forgive them. I'm just saying it seems to be.
So, do you think that's why there's maybe like a rise in them? Because obviously,
of course, autism is on the rise. And on top of that, it's like, and I think Alex Rosen is doing great work, and I want to get him on the show. That giant Jew pedophile hunter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and this is not anything against him because he's doing great work, but all of these hot teachers, all these pedophile hunting videos, they're all arresting low-level pedophiles, and they should be arrested. But that gives kind of the illusion that we're fighting this shit. When in reality, there is very powerful people that never get touched.
Yeah, but like, do you think someone like Jeffrey Epstein or that high is on Instagram, on Telegram, on like
No,
those,
his
those
is
low
10
level...
times worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
he's involved in kidnapped children. These scumbags. But back to the bees. I don't want to get too dark because it was a very light episode of love. I'm excited to taste this guy's honey.
Yeah.
You said that during the show too. I was like, okay.
What?
No, it's just, I'm gonna taste this guy's honey.
Oh,
Johnny, why do you gotta bring the perversion in here?
I really was. I was
We
about
just
to.
got done talking about porn.
I was about to ask Sam. I was like, "You putting in some coffee, some spreading on some toast?"
Yeah, there we go.
Johnny,
thank you, Xavier Guerrero.
Over here. Yeah, I wonder who's running Pornhub.
Yeah, over here, Pornhub addict. Just unbelievable. Everything has to go to instantly the homoerotica with you, bud.
I can't help it, man.
Yeah, you've been programmed.
I grew up in the 90s. Everything went there.
Now I see why Johnny wants the honey so bad.
Yeah, Johnny. Johnny's excited for that man heat. Guys, if you go to samtribly.com.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. We got some weird stuff here. So Jordan Peterson went on Rogan and said maybe the dumbest thing anybody said this year, and that's saying a lot. Dude, there's been a lot of dumb shit said on Rogan this year.
Yeah.
I'll just play it really quickly. Jordan wearing one of his trademark suits, gaudy suits. Jordan Peterson, a guy have been a great fan of, an admirer of.
I think everybody was when he was at the peak of his thing, probably banging out whatever oxy he was on or whatever.
It was benzos, yeah.
Benzos.
Now, do you think that was... He's changed after that, doubtless. Do you think that was some kind of humiliation ritual or something where...
Johnny, great question. All I know is that all these dudes who made their names off of being anti-cancel culture are now for cancel culture.
It is funny, isn't it?
And it's controlled demolition.
On one issue in particular, it seems.
Yeah, and it's just going to be controlled opposition. I've said this before, and Adam Green, who's been on Tinfoil Hat a couple times, mocked me, saying, dude, you're crazy. And Adam's very funny. Adam can be very funny on Twitter. But I'm telling you, the right is going to is going to break away from Zionism. You already see it starting to happen.
Ooh, I hope you're right, but that could lead to the like a schism where they don't the balkanization, as you like to say, of the right, and then do they have enough?
That could be part of the plan
to win an election.
I think you're going to start seeing it happen more and more, especially when they start initiating anti-Semitism laws. Yep. And I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. It's like you're not being picked on. You're just now being treated like everybody else.
We'll play the clip here. This is what Jordan said.
And so this is like, I can really see this starting to happen on the right. Like I've been tracking.
I think Joe Rogan handles this great too.
On the right, he does, doesn't he? Yeah.
I think he's, because I think he really. You remember Joe? There was that time where Joe was having dinner with Sam Harris, and I don't know Ben Shapiro was there, but I remember distinctly. Sam Harris was there.
The alt-right people, yeah.
No, they called it the dark web at that time.
The intellectual dark web.
Yeah, that's what they called it at the time, which now there's this dark woke is the new thing.
Dark woke? Oh, I like
is
that.
a new thing.
Dark MAGA, we've got
because the woke right isn't
no.
It's like when they did Latina X and everyone's like, no, I'm not Latina. Yeah. Latinx or whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, the governor's never said Latinx ever.
Except for like 1,000 times. Yeah. So they tried to woke right. It's not working. So now it's dark woke. Because I think it sounds cool.
It does sound cool.
So I think Joe handles this very, very well. Out of respect for Jordan Peterson. Obviously, he likes Jordan Peterson. Yeah. I haven't heard either way. I don't have any insight into that, just based on watching Joe have him on many times. Yeah. Here's the problem. Here, run the clip and I'll tell you the problem with Jordan Peterson.
Like that, especially on the anti-Semitic side, because that's really where it reared its head first. And
why is that?
There's nothing more annoying than a successful minority. Right. Now that's part of it.
Absolutely
I might as well get myself in trouble right away, too.
In a bubble.
Yeah,
take that is.
Just like, because look, he knows he's like, it's almost like he's been made to say these things. Because look,
100%, Johnny.
Watch how he's uncomfortable with it himself almost.
A successful minority. Right. Now that's part of it. I'm going to I might as well get myself in trouble right away too.
Yeah, for sure. This is a real subject.
Well, so it's a real terrible subject.
It's interesting because if you don't criticize it enough, you're compromised.
Well,
if you criticize, it's like when it comes to anti-Semitism, like it's one of those things where you can't separate. It's a religion, and it's also a race, and it's also a government.
Mm-hmm.
That's where things get weird.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then there's also the concept of intelligence agencies and compromise that also gets attached to it, the manipulation of world markets and money, and there's a lot.
This is, by the way, Joe very gracefully offering a response to what Jordan said.
100%.
Yeah. Very gracefully.
To unpack. And then there's regular Jewish people.
100%.
Well, the
Or as
Jews,
Owen
too,
Benjamin calls them deli Jews.
Yeah, that's what you're always saying. You know, Tim.
They're very successful.
Yeah.
And so what you would expect from a purely statistical point of view is you'd expect them to be overrepresented at the extremes.
They're also a walled garden, right?
Meaning?
Meaning it's very difficult
You
to
know what he
join.
means.
They don't proselytize. They don't try
Right,
to get you to
right,
join.
right.
And they're all very tightly knit. They call themselves the clan. They're all like locked in. The Jewish clan, not KKK. The problem with that term has been compromised by the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
But I mean it as terms of tribe.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
community.
Yeah,
They're a
community.
tribe.
They're very
They call themselves-
tight knit.
This is what I'm saying.
They stick together.
Well,
and
so-
if you understand the history, obviously, of Nazi Germany and of persecution in Eastern Europe, you have to. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, all these complex things are multidimensional. I mean, I watched your whole conversation with Douglas, and I thought you guys did a very credible job, all three of you, of navigating unbelievably choppy waters. So that's the first thing I'd like to say, because one of the things I was trying to figure out when I was watching that is...
Stop it. This is what is happening right now. He just gave away why he's there.
Yeah.
And this is why Rogan's so great because he realizes that this topic on this one particular episode hit in a way that allows a counter to it that wasn't able to be done on that show, because Douglas Murray again was great when he's teeing off on blue-haired college kids. But when he meets somebody who's lived some life, is of the tribe, and it's so funny listening to Douglas Murray actually question
so-called
Dave Smith's Jewishness, which is hilarious to me.
Can you imagine if he was black, a so-called black man?
Yeah, well, they do that too. Oh, he ain't black.
You don't vote for me.
Oh, you're an
black.
Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
Which is why Dave is so dangerous, because you can't use the same emotional blackmail tricks on him because he is of the tribe. So when he talks about that, when he talks like he is right now, it's so obvious what he's there for. He's yet another row or another army being sent in to counter this narrative that is everywhere right now.
Do you think, I would love to know how the booking worked for this, if he was originally, they were booked in this order, or if Jordan solicited it. But I would just love to. Wouldn't you like to know if Jordan was like, hey, I'd love to come on and get into that, or if
I would love to
they
too. I don't
sought it
know
out?
what that process was.
Do I think I could have done a better job of any of you? And I certainly didn't walk away from it with that idea in mind. But then underneath all that, I thought there's a really unbelievably tricky problem here, and I think that's why it's made it.
It's called mass
poked
murder?
up into. Well, you also set that conversation up, but it poked up and made itself manifest in that conversation. And the issue is, how do you identify the psychopathic pretenders? And it's even worse now. And then make a barrier, right? Now,
This is where his psychology background fails him, because he tries to pathologize everything. He tries to orient everything in terms of psychopathy.
It is talking in a bubble.
Yes. Yeah.
It's basically saying that all these outside variables and data is not involved in my belief system.
And you just can't live life that way.
And you're like, people hate the Jews. We are not one of those people.
No, YouTube, we are not. That's a harmful
conspiracy. A harmful conspiracy.
600 million died.
But the people, 600 million people died. That the notion that the only reason this group is not liked is because they're jealous of their success.
No. I mean, that was the argument they made about Nazi Germany, and perhaps that could have been true then when so many people were suffering under the weight of what happened after World War I.
I'm gonna let you say that. I don't necessarily.
I don't know. That was part of the narrative, though.
Okay,
But
that's fine.
That is
We'll just let that be said.
But that is unequivocally not what is happening right now.
100%.
Absolutely not.
we
Because we're
have
talking
to-
about a government, nothing to do with nobody's even bringing up
100%.
Hollywood right now. We're talking about the Israeli government. Which, I mean, this
Keep
is
going.
just, I mean, it's denial.
It's calling for the
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.